What would you do if you discovered that someone was stealing dreams right under your nose? If you're enjoying the story, please share, and subscribe to Heartbound Stories. We love hearing from you, so drop a comment and tell us where you're watching from. The knife made a sharp sound against the cutting board. Thwack, thwack, thwack. It echoed through the dark, empty restaurant like a drumbeat that wouldn't stop. Marcus Cole stood in the hallway, wearing his janitor uniform and an old baseball cap pulled low over his eyes. He pushed his cleaning cart slowly toward the kitchen door and peeked through the small window. There she was, Tanya Brooks, alone in the huge kitchen at 3 o'clock in the morning. Her hands moved fast and smooth as she cut through a giant pile of meat. Every cut was perfect. Every movement looked like a dance. Marcus had owned restaurants for over 20 years, and he had never seen anyone cut meat that beautifully. But why was she here so late? And why was she alone? Marcus had started working at his own restaurant 6 months ago, pretending to be a janitor named Mark. Nobody knew he was really the owner. He wore old clothes, kept his head down, and pushed a mop around while he watched and listened. Something felt wrong at the Golden Plate restaurant, and he needed to find out what it was. Good workers kept getting fired for strange reasons. Customers complained about things that didn't make sense. And Marcus noticed something that made his stomach hurt. Almost all the workers who got fired or treated badly had brown or black skin. His restaurant manager, Stephen Park, always had an excuse. But the excuses never felt right. Tanya stopped cutting for a moment. She closed her eyes and took a deep breath. Even from far away, Marcus could see how tired she looked. This wasn't normal tired, like after a long day of work. This was the kind of tired that came from carrying heavy weights on your shoulders for too long. Marcus had been watching Tanya for 3 weeks now. She came in early every morning, stayed late every night, and never complained. She worked harder than anyone else. Her food was always perfect. Customers loved everything she cooked. But Stephen Park never said one nice word to her. Instead, he gave her the worst jobs and the longest hours. Tanya suddenly looked up, straight at the door. Her eyes met Marcus's eyes for just a second. Marcus quickly pretended to fix something on his cleaning cart. "Mark, what are you doing standing there?" Tanya's voice sounded surprised but also a little annoyed. "I thought you only cleaned after 4 in the morning." Marcus pushed his cart into the kitchen, trying to act normal. His heart was beating fast. "Oh, hi, Tanya. Stephen asked me to start early today. He said the kitchen needed extra cleaning." He paused and looked at the mountain of meat on her cutting board. "Do you always work this late?" Tanya went back to cutting, but Marcus noticed her hands got a little bit tighter on the knife. "Someone has to get this meat ready for lunch. Stephen doesn't like it when things aren't prepared ahead of time." Marcus knew this was a lie. He had written the restaurant rules himself 15 years ago. Meat was supposed to be prepared fresh in the morning, not at 3 o'clock at night. But he didn't say anything. "Not yet. Stephen seems really tough to work for," Marcus said carefully as he wiped down a counter nearby. "I heard him yelling at Jennifer yesterday. Something about her messing up an order." Tanya's hand squeezed the knife handle so tight that her knuckles turned lighter. "Jennifer didn't mess up any order. I saw her write it down exactly right. I was standing right there." A cold feeling ran down Marcus's back. "What do you mean?" Tanya stopped cutting completely. She turned and looked right at Marcus. Her eyes were filled with something that made Marcus's chest feel tight. It was the look of someone who had seen too many unfair things happen and was tired of staying quiet about it. "Mark, can I ask you something?" Tanya's voice was soft but serious. "Sure," Marcus said. "Have you ever had a dream that someone just took away from you? Like they reached into your life and stole the most important thing you ever wanted?" The question hit Marcus like a punch. He suddenly understood why someone as talented as Tanya was cutting meat alone at 3 in the morning instead of running her own kitchen somewhere fancy. "Why are you asking me that?" Marcus said quietly. Tanya smiled, but it wasn't a happy smile. It was the kind of smile people make when they're trying not to cry. Because tomorrow, some people will learn that you shouldn't mess with the wrong person. Bad things happen when you steal from people who have nothing left to lose. She turned back to her cutting board and picked up the knife again. And something tells me, Mark, that you're not really who you pretend to be. The air in the kitchen felt electric, like right before a thunderstorm. Marcus's mind was racing. Tanya had figured out his secret, or at least part of it. But what did she mean about tomorrow? What was going to happen? Tanya, what's going on tomorrow? Marcus asked. She didn't look at him. The knife kept moving. Thwack, thwack, thwack. You'll see. Everyone will see. Marcus wanted to ask more questions, but the back door suddenly opened. Stephen Park walked in, looking angry as usual. He was a short man with slick back hair and a permanent frown on his face. What's going on here? Stephen snapped. Mark, why are you in my kitchen? You're supposed to clean the dining room first. Sorry, sir, Marcus said, making his voice sound humble and scared. I was just emptying this trash can. Well, hurry up and get out. And you, Stephen turned to Tanya. Why aren't you done with that meat yet? You're too slow. Maybe I need to find someone faster. Tanya's jaw got tight, but she didn't say anything. She just kept cutting. Marcus pushed his cart out of the kitchen, but he didn't go far. He stayed in the hallway where he could still hear them talking. You know, Tanya, Stephen's voice was mean and cold, you should be grateful you even have this job. Not many places would hire someone like you. Someone with no college degree. No fancy training. You're lucky I'm giving you a chance. Marcus's hands turned into fists. He wanted to march back in there and tell Stephen exactly who he was. He wanted to fire Stephen on the spot, but he needed more proof. He needed to catch Stephen doing something so wrong that no one could deny it. Yes, sir, Tanya said quietly, but Marcus could hear the anger hidden in those two words. Stephen left for the back door, and the kitchen got quiet again. Marcus waited a few minutes, then slowly pushed his cart back toward the kitchen. He needed to talk to Tanya more. He needed to understand what was really happening in his restaurant. But when he looked through the window, Tanya was gone. The meat was all cut and put away. The cutting board was clean. It was like she had never been there at all. On the counter, Marcus saw something that made him stop breathing. It was a piece of paper, folded in half. Written on the outside in neat handwriting were two words. From Mark. Marcus looked around to make sure no one was watching. Then he grabbed the paper and opened it. Inside, in that same neat handwriting, was a message that changed everything. If you're really who I think you are, meet me at Joe's Diner on Fifth Street tomorrow at 2 p.m. Come alone. I have something important to show you. Something that will prove what's been happening here. But we have to be careful. Stephen Park isn't just mean. He's dangerous. And I'm not the only person he's hurt. Tanya. Marcus folded the paper and put it in his pocket. His heart was pounding. Tomorrow at 2 p.m., he would finally learn the truth. And something told him that once he knew, nothing at the Golden Plate restaurant would ever be the same again. Marcus didn't sleep that night. He kept thinking about Tanya's note, and the words, Stephen Park isn't just mean. He's dangerous. What did that mean? And what was Tanya going to show him? The next morning, Marcus came back to the restaurant at 6 o'clock, wearing his janitor uniform again. He mopped floors and emptied trash cans, but his mind was somewhere else. He watched everything carefully. At 8 o'clock, the morning shift arrived. Marcus saw Stephen Park walk in with a big smile on his face. That smile made Marcus feel uncomfortable. Stephen never smiled unless he was happy about something bad. Good morning, everyone. Stephen called out in a fake, cheerful voice. I have an announcement to make. Gather around. The workers stopped what they were doing and came to the front of the restaurant. Tanya walked in from the kitchen, wiping her hands on her apron. When she saw Stephen smile, her face went hard like stone. I've been reviewing everyone's performance, Stephen said, walking back and forth like a king in front of his people. And I've made some decisions about who deserves to stay and who needs to go. Marcus felt his stomach drop. This was it. This was what Tanya had warned him about. Jennifer Martinez. Stephen pointed at a young woman with kind eyes. You're fired. You've made too many mistakes with customer orders. Jennifer's mouth fell open. But I haven't made any mistakes. I've been perfect for 3 months. Are you arguing with me? Stephen's voice got sharp. Security will escort you out. Leave your apron and name tag. Tears filled Jennifer's eyes as she took off her apron. Marcus wanted to stop this, but he forced himself to stay quiet. Not yet. He needed to see everything first. Carlos Rodriguez, Stephen continued, also fired. You've been late too many times. I've never been late once. Carlos said, his voice shaking with anger. That's not what my records show. Stephen said with that terrible smile. Security, please. One by one, Stephen fired 5 workers. All of them had brown or black skin. All of them were good workers who had done nothing wrong. And all of them were people Marcus had personally watched do excellent work. Tanya stood in the back, her arms crossed, watching everything with eyes that burned like fire. She looked at Marcus for just a second, and he understood this was what she wanted him to see. This was the proof. After the workers were forced to leave, crying and angry, Stephen turned to the remaining staff. Let this be a lesson. I expect perfection. Anyone who can't deliver will be replaced. The room was silent except for the sound of people sniffling and trying not to cry. Now get back to work, Stephen said, walking toward his office. Marcus quickly pushed his cleaning cart toward the back hallway, where he could think. His hands were shaking with anger. This was worse than he thought. Stephen wasn't just being unfair. He was destroying people's lives on purpose. Pretty sick, isn't it? Marcus jumped. Tanya was standing behind him, her arms still crossed. How long has this been going on? Marcus whispered. A year, Tanya said quietly. Maybe longer. I've watched 23 good people get fired for made-up reasons. All of them looked like me. All of them had families to feed. And Stephen always has paperwork that makes it look legal. Why haven't you said anything? Why haven't you gone to the owner? Tanya laughed, but it was a sad, bitter sound. Because nobody knows who the owner is. He's been gone for years, running things from far away through emails and phone calls. Stephen told us the owner doesn't care what happens here as long as money keeps coming in. Marcus felt like someone had punched him in the stomach. His own workers thought he didn't care about them. Is that what you're going to show me at the diner? Marcus asked. Proof of what Stephen's doing? Tanya looked around to make sure no one was listening. That and more. I've been collecting evidence for 6 months. Pictures, recordings, documents. Everything. But I need help bringing it to the right people. And Mark. She looked him straight in the eyes. I think you might be the right person. I don't know who you really are. But I know you're not just a janitor. Nobody watches people the way you do unless they're looking for something specific. Before Marcus could answer, they heard Stephen's voice coming down the hallway. Tanya quickly walked away, back toward the kitchen. Marcus started mopping the floor, keeping his head down. Stephen walked past without even looking at him. To Stephen, janitors were invisible. They didn't matter. That's exactly why Marcus's disguise worked so well. The rest of the morning dragged by slowly. Marcus cleaned and watched and waited. At 1:30, he told the other janitors he wasn't feeling well and needed to leave early. Nobody questioned it. Joe's Diner was a small, old restaurant on 5th Street. It had red vinyl booths and a counter with spinning stools. The smell of coffee and bacon filled the air. Marcus walked in at exactly 2 o'clock. Tanya was already there, sitting in a booth at the back. She had changed out of her work clothes and was wearing jeans and a simple blue shirt. On the table in front of her was a large brown envelope. Marcus slid into the booth across from her. I'm here. Tanya studied his face for a long moment. Before I show you what's in this envelope, I need to know something. Who are you really? Marcus took a deep breath. It was time to stop pretending. My name is Marcus Cole. I own the Golden Plate restaurant. I've owned it for 15 years. Tanya's eyes went wide. Then, slowly, she nodded. I knew it. I knew you were someone important. The way you watched everything, the way you knew all the rules. Why didn't you say anything before? Marcus asked. Because I wasn't sure if I could trust you. For all I knew, you were working with Stephen, testing us, seeing who would complain. Tanya pushed the envelope across the table. But after watching you these past few weeks, I think you're one of the good ones. So here, This is everything. Marcus opened the envelope. Inside were papers, photographs, and a small recording device. As he looked through them, his blood ran cold. There were emails from Stephen to other managers, talking about how to get rid of the undesirables. There were fake performance reviews with made-up complaints. There were pictures of Stephen meeting with restaurant owners from other businesses, exchanging money for information about workers who complained about unfair treatment. But the worst thing was a recording. Tanya pressed play, and Marcus heard Stephen's voice, clear as day. These people think they deserve the same treatment as everyone else. But they don't. They should be grateful we even give them jobs. And if they complain, we make their lives so miserable they quit on their own. That way, no lawsuits. It's all legal. Well, mostly legal. Another voice on the recording laughed. You're brilliant, Stephen. I should use that technique at my restaurant. Marcus felt sick. This was happening in his restaurant, in the business he had built with his own hands. There's more, Tanya said softly. The reason I work so many hours, the reason I'm always here early and late, is because Stephen threatened to fire me if I didn't. He said I should be working twice as hard as everyone else to prove I deserve to be here. Why you specifically? Marcus asked, though he was afraid he already knew the answer. Tanya's voice got very quiet. 10 years ago, I got accepted to the best cooking school in the country. Full scholarship. It was my dream. I was going to become a real chef, open my own restaurant, make my mother proud. She paused, and Marcus saw tears forming in her eyes. But my mom got sick, really sick, cancer. I had to choose between cooking school and taking care of her. I chose my mom. Marcus felt his own eyes getting wet. She died 3 years ago, Tanya continued. By then, I was too old for scholarship, too late to start over. So I took this job, hoping maybe I could work my way up, show everyone what I could do. But Stephen found out about my story. He uses it against me, tells me I'm lucky to even have a job since I wasted my opportunity, makes me work these terrible hours because he knows I need the money. I send half my paycheck to pay off my mom's medical bills. A tear rolled down Tanya's cheek, but she wiped it away quickly. I'm tired, Marcus. I'm tired being treated like I'm less than human. I'm tired of watching good people get destroyed. And I'm tired of pretending that talent and hard work don't matter if you have the wrong color skin. Marcus reached across the table and gently put his hand over Tanya's. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry this happened in my restaurant. I should have been here. I should have been paying attention. So what are we going to do? Tanya asked, because Stephen has friends. Important friends. He won't go down easy. Marcus pulled the envelope close and looked at all the evidence again. Then he looked up at Tanya with determination in his eyes. Tomorrow morning, I'm calling an emergency meeting. Every worker, every manager, everyone, and Stephen Park is going to learn that stealing dreams from good people has consequences, real consequences. Tanya smiled for the first time since Marcus had met her. It was a real smile, full of hope. Good, she said, because I have one more piece of evidence. And this one is going to make sure Stephen never works in a restaurant again. The next morning, Marcus arrived at the Golden Plate restaurant at 7 o'clock. But this time, he wasn't wearing his janitor uniform. He wore a sharp black suit and tie. His shoes were polished and shiny. He walked through the front door with his head held high. The hostess at the front desk looked confused. I'm sorry, sir, but we're not open yet. I know, Marcus said calmly. I'm Marcus Cole. I own this restaurant. Please call everyone to the main dining room. Staff meeting in 10 minutes. Everyone must attend. The hostess's mouth dropped open. She quickly picked up the phone and started making calls. Within minutes, workers started gathering in the dining room. They whispered each other, looking confused and worried. The cooks came from the kitchen. The servers came from the back. The dishwashers. The hosts. Everyone. Tanya walked in and saw Marcus in a suit. Their eyes met, and she gave him a small nod. She looked nervous but ready. Then Stephen Park walked in. When he saw Marcus, his face went pale like he'd seen a ghost. What's going on here? Stephen demanded, trying to sound tough. Who are you? I'm Marcus Cole. Marcus said loud enough for everyone to hear. I'm the owner of this restaurant, and I've been working here for the past 6 months, disguised as a janitor named Mark, watching everything that happens. The room exploded with whispers and gasps. Stephen's face turned from pale to red. That's impossible, Stephen stammered. The owner lives far away. He doesn't come here. I came back because I heard troubling rumors, Marcus said. Rumors about good workers being fired for no reason, about unfair treatment, about a manager who was running my restaurant like his own personal kingdom. He looked directly at Stephen. And everything I heard was true. Stephen tried to laugh, but it came out shaky. This is ridiculous. I've been following all company policies. I have documentation for every decision I've made. Yes, you do have documentation, Marcus said. Fake documentation, made-up complaints, false performance reviews. He held up the brown envelope Tanya had given him, and I have proof of all of it. Stephen's eyes locked onto the envelope. Fear flashed across his face. For the past year, Marcus continued, looking at all the workers, Stephen Park has been systematically firing employees based on the color of their skin. He's been creating false evidence to make it look legal. He's been stealing from you, lying to you, and treating you like you don't matter. That's a lie, Stephen shouted. I've never discriminated against anyone. Really? Tanya stepped forward. Her voice was strong and clear. Then explain this. She pulled out her phone and pressed play. Stephen's own voice filled the room through a small speaker. These people think they deserve the same treatment as everyone else, but they don't. They should be grateful we even give them jobs. Everyone in the room gasped. Some workers started crying. Others looked angry. That recording is illegal. Stephen yelled. You can't use that. Actually, I can, Tanya said. I recorded you in the kitchen, which is a shared workspace. And I have 23 other recordings just like it, plus emails, plus fake documents with your signature, plus testimony from workers you fired. Stephen looked around the room like a trapped animal. His confident smile was completely gone. You know what the worst part is, Stephen? Marcus said, his voice heavy with disappointment. I built this restaurant to be a place where everyone could succeed, where talent mattered more than anything else, where people could chase their dreams. And you turned it into a nightmare. I made this restaurant profitable. Stephen shouted desperately. Before me, you were barely breaking even. I brought in money. By destroying people's lives, Marcus said quietly, by stealing their dignity, by crushing their dreams. That's not profit. That's poison. Marcus turned to face all the workers. I owe all of you an apology. I should have been here. I should have been paying attention. I trusted the wrong person to run my restaurant, and you all paid the price. I'm deeply, truly sorry. The room was silent for a moment. Then Jennifer, one of the workers Stephen had fired the day before, spoke up. Are you going to make this right? Yes, Marcus said firmly. Starting right now. Stephen Park, you're fired. Effective immediately. Security will escort you from the building. I'm also reporting you to the labor board and the police. What you did wasn't just wrong. It was illegal. 2 security guards Marcus had called earlier stepped forward. Stephen's face crumbled. All his power, all his control, disappeared in an instant. You can't do this to me, Stephen whispered, but there was no strength in his voice anymore. I just did, Marcus said. And Stephen, one more thing. Every person you fire will be called back and offer their job again if they want it, with back pay for all the time they lost, and a formal apology from me personally. As the security guards led Stephen away, he looked back at Tanya with pure hatred in his eyes. You'll regret this, he hissed. Tanya stood tall and looked him straight in the eye. No, Stephen, you're the one with regrets now. You should have never stolen my dream. You should have never thought I was too weak to fight back. Stephen was escorted out the door. The room stayed quiet until they heard his car drive away. Then, slowly, people started clapping. The clapping grew louder and louder until the whole room was filled with applause and cheers. Marcus held up his hand. There's one more thing I need to do. He turned to Tanya. Tanya Brooks, would you please step forward? Tanya walked up, looking confused. For 6 months, I watched you work harder than anyone I've ever seen, Marcus said. I watched you come in early and stay late. I watched you create beautiful food with skill and passion. I watched you care about this restaurant even when you were being treated unfairly. He paused. I also learned that you gave up a full scholarship to cooking school to take care of your sick mother, that you sacrificed your dream to be there for someone you loved. Tears started rolling down Tanya's cheeks. Your mother would be so proud of you, Marcus said gently. And today, I want to honor both her memory and your incredible talent. Tanya Brooks, I'm promoting you to executive chef of the Golden Plate restaurant. You'll have full control of the kitchen, a significant raise, and a share of the restaurant's profits. Tanya's hands flew to her mouth. She couldn't speak, couldn't breathe. And one more thing, Marcus continued. I have a friend who runs the best cooking school in the country, the same school that gave you the scholarship 10 years ago. I spoke to her last night. She wants to offer you a special program, weekend and evening classes completely free, so you can get your certification while still working here. Your dream doesn't have to stay dead, Tanya. You can bring it back to life. Tanya broke down crying, happy tears this time. She hugged Marcus tight, and he hugged her back. The entire room erupted in cheers again. Workers were crying and hugging each other. It felt like a heavy, dark cloud had lifted from the restaurant. Over the next few weeks, amazing things happened. All the fired workers came back. The restaurant atmosphere completely changed. People smiled again. They laughed. They worked together like a real team. Tanya transformed the menu with her incredible cooking skills. Customers loved the new dishes. Food critics came and wrote glowing reviews. Within 2 months, the Golden Plate became the most popular restaurant in the city. Stephen Park was charged with discrimination and fraud. He lost his license to work as a restaurant manager. His career was over. But the best moment came 3 months later. Marcus walked into the kitchen early one morning and found Tanya there, but this time she wasn't cutting meat in the dark. She was teaching 3 young cooks her techniques. The kitchen was bright and full of laughter. Good morning, Chef Brooks, Marcus said with a smile. Tanya looked up and grinned. Good morning, Marcus. Want to try my new recipe? It's something my mother used to make. Marcus sat down, and Tanya placed a beautiful plate in front of him. The food was arranged like art. He took a bite and closed his eyes. It was perfect. Your mother would be so proud, Marcus said. I think she is, Tanya said softly, looking up like she could see through the ceiling to heaven. I can feel it. That evening, after the restaurant closed, Tanya stayed behind to finish some paperwork in her new office. She looked around at the walls where she'd hung her cooking school acceptance letter from 10 years ago, right next to her new certificate from the classes she was taking now. She thought about everything that had happened, about the dark days of being treated unfairly, about the fear and exhaustion, about almost giving up. But she also thought about standing up for what was right, about Marcus believing in her, about getting a second chance at her dream. Tanya pulled out her phone and looked at an old photo of her mother. We did it, Mama, she whispered. You always told me that good things come to people who work hard and stay kind, even when the world is cruel. You were right. She smiled and got back to work. Tomorrow, the restaurant would open again. There would be customers to serve, food to cook, and dreams to chase. But this time, everything was different. This time, Tanya wasn't working in the dark at 3 a.m, alone and afraid. This time, she was exactly where she belonged, doing exactly what she was meant to do. And somewhere Marcus Cole smiled too, because he had learned something important during his time as a janitor. The most valuable things in a restaurant weren't the fancy decorations or expensive equipment. The most valuable things were the people, their dreams, their dignity, their courage to stand up when things were wrong. He had almost lost sight of that, but Tanya had reminded him. And now, the Golden Plate restaurant wasn't just a place that made money. It was a place where dreams could come true,